So with Stanley, we were going to work a little bit with some recalls. Stanley, come. Yes. So Stanley right now is just loose in the environment. So a great way to warm up with some lovely recalls is obviously in the home can be a better place to warm up. So I'm going to toss a little snack off in the distance, let him get distracted, and see if we can get him to do a little bounce back. Yes. So even if times you don't have the moment to say his name and get him to recall from your cue, as long as he, for example, is heading back towards you, I would still feed him for that response. So Stanley, come. Yes. So I know we did this in class before where you throw a little snack, you do a little find it, and then you go, Stanley, come. Beautiful. I would recommend that if he's not as familiar doing this in and around the home is to use a long line. So in a moment, I'll grab a long line so you can kind of see how I'd set him up for this exercise. But the main goal is that you're feeding for this lovely bounce back. So obviously, hey, Abba Debba, remember you can do some walking, but try not to bonk mommy's things, okay? So Stanley, come. So having Ebba around, my littlest one who's 4, Stanley can then start to practice with distractions. So obviously she sometimes will be meandering around, doing some fun things, running. So the benefit of that is as Stanley is starting to proof his behaviors and work on his cues, he starts to get more comfortable ignoring the chaos, which could be, again, animal distractions, environmental, or sometimes humans. So ready, Stanley, come. He's like, well, hold on, what's Ebba up to? So Ebba might be heading back over to her zone. Yes, to work a little bit with some of her toys. So a lot of times throughout the day, she'll help me sometimes with proper hellos and some other exercises. Stanley, come. So let's say, for example, Mr. asks, nice. Let's say, for example, he didn't respond to a recall. You don't want to say his name over and over, and you don't want to be working that cue word, which for him might be the recall word come. Other folks might use the word here for recall. Your best bet is if, let's say, he's non-responsive, it could be that the environment, nice, is too hard or too overwhelming, and he's having a hard time because of it. So, but let's say I called him and nothing happened. I would go to my dog a little bit closer, about half the distance, and try from there. If there was no response, so Stanley, come. If there was no response, I would go all the way to my dog and collect them up. So maybe there was a turkey in the yard, or maybe there was another bigger noise distraction or an odor. I would highly recommend don't keep letting your puppy fail, which means they might actually get really good at ignoring us. So if, let's say, Stanley was off in the distance, which again, I know he's out of camera shot right now. Let's say I pretended to say his name and the recall word, but nothing happened. I would go about half the distance to my dog, go, Stanley, come, and then bring him roughly to the place where I may have originally called him. So obviously I only didn't, quite say the recall the first time because we were pretending he didn't respond or hear it. So I would also make sure that when doing recalls, you're not going ahead and saying the recall too many times in the sense of doing too many reps. So if your puppy is getting tired and they can really do a really nice, maybe 10 good recall reps, I wouldn't always, nice job, Stanley, I wouldn't always go ahead and force 10 upon the puppy. If you're finding that maybe he starts to get slower around 5, sometimes rotate. Maybe you do 3 good recalls, call it a day. Maybe you do 5 one time and call it a day. So ready, Stanley, come. So let's say again, maybe there's no response. He's a little distracted further down in the environment. I'm going to go a little bit closer. Stanley, come. What a good boy. And then yes to recall. I do find that at times, if we don't have motivational reinforcements that the puppy finds motivational or, again, reinforcing, your babe may not find the work, again, equivalent to the paycheck. So remember that with these exercises, they're all deemed kind of work from your puppy's perspective. So if we're using food that is kind of meh, then you might have moments at times where the behavior is not at all possible. Ready, Stanley, come. Because the puppy might find it not worth the effort. Nice. So right here, I'm just going to jackpot him. which means that instead of one little snack, he got several, one after the other. So that was beautiful. So in a moment, I'm going to grab the long line, and we're going to do a little bit with Mr. S, working the recalls on a long lead so you can see the differences. So this was, again, off leash in a safe environment, which could be your fenced-in yard or inside the home. But if you're finding they're struggling, make sure to use your gear almost like training wheels when they would otherwise fail or get harmed or into trouble, if that makes sense. So ready, Stanley? Come. Gorgeous job, Mr. S. So lovely little recall. Going to jackpot this handsome guy for that lovely, lovely recall. Oh, we dropped one. That's okay. He'll find that one later. Ready? Find it. Nice job, Stanley. That was beautiful. Smart man.